Hello. You thought I would go full crazy Seahawks fan on you and really predict us to win the division. Well, sorry to disappoint. I still have my brain attached to my head, and I really think this team is really good. I think it's underestimated, yet I don't think they are just on the level of Rams, though I think the margin is really tight. Welcome to Road to Super Bowl, episode 3. Here we are with Seattle Seahawks, the second to last team to unravel from the NFC West, and of course my team. I am Seahawks diehard. I don't expect that to change because I never changed my fanhood to Arsenal even after 22 years right now. Columbus, doesn't matter success or not, I am there. So Seahawks is my team. I'm excited to talk about them. I'm excited to tell you why I'm actually higher on them than the general public, or this I think, because that hasn't not necessarily been the case for last couple of years. I can be really critical about this team and hope that they will surprise me. So with that being said, please, if you are watching this, if you're enjoying this, let me know that by liking this video, by commenting, by recommending this to others. It will help tremendously. It's very much appreciated. With that being said, let's start. And we will start recollecting what the Seahawks did with their draft. And it was one of my favorite drafts overall in this cycle. And I don't think I'm alone in that. And it started with Grey Zabel. And man, let me tell you, I was excited. You could see it. There's a video of me, how much excited I was about this pick, because everybody was like, this is just a perfect pick for the Seahawks. They have a huge need. This is a great floor-raising guy to a room that absolutely needs it. But they never invest. John Schneider's like, oh my God, there's just the interior offensive lineman is so overpaid. We don't appreciate it much. I was like, yeah, again, we are going to suffer again. And then I actually pick him, and I'm like, yes. I'm still excited about this. Perhaps on the hindsight, it's more of an A pick in terms of where the value was. But what makes it still an A plus, and I have not changed my opinion on that, is just how kind of unlikely it was that they will actually do this. And it didn't stop there, because Nick Emanvori, in terms of value, this is not the perfect value. They had to trade it up to get him. But in terms of fit, and him and Mike Mack, this is a dream connection. And when we will talk about this defense, which is one of the few reasons, defense and offense, why I'm higher on this team, that probably you are if you are watching this, is that this defense was actually starting to really be going with Mike Mack at the handle around week 9, week 10 last year. And this offseason, it didn't change much. It's just added pieces just to fit what Mike Mack wanted to do. And I think that should scare the living hell out of people out there, because Mike Mack is special coach, and this defense has a potential to be really, really special. Okay, past Nick Emanvori, Elijah Arrow, I have to admit, probably my least favorite pick out of this whole cycle. I'm really past the opinion that, if not for some injuries, he would be a top 10 pick in this draft. I'm like, that's not a player I've watched. I think there's at least a tier between him and Tyler Warren, for example. I hope I'm wrong. I still think it's solid pick. I had him early third round, mid third round, so it's not an outrageous. Especially when they feel so highly about him, and there was a couple of tight ends I think going on at this area, so they kind of could have felt pressure to take him. But when you already have Noah Fant and there was not clear trading opportunity for Fant, just don't want to cut him because he's still a pretty good player. I'm not really sure how much he's actually going to be an impact year one. I hope I will be wrong on him, but we'll see. Now, in terms of just picking some other picks from this draft, wow, Jalen Milroe, special, just like Nick Emanvori. I think this is just absolutely the amazing landing spot for both of these guys, because here there is no pressure for him to start. They just pay Sam Darnold for, I would say, at least 2 years to be their QB, and that's exactly the time that Jalen Milroe needs to develop into potential starting quarterback in the league, because like he has traits for days, he just doesn't do a lot of quarterbacking stuff besides running. Perfect situation for him. And not only that, because I don't think he is going to be like a no factor for the Seahawks team for the first 2 years, because dude is legit rushing threat. I think if he just doesn't come along with the whole quarterbacking stuff, I think he would be pretty good running back, like pretty damn good. And it's not like we have not seen some of these transitions, but as of right now, I think he could be some sort of Taysom Hill type of a cheat code, 4th down, and like how much they will utilize him, it's definitely like, I think it's going to tell you something about like how they perceive his future, because like if he's out there like really taking hits over and over again, then maybe this pick is like more of like in this area. But he could really be legit impact even in year one as not a QB or like as a design QB for some special packages. Like look no further than like what Steelers use Justin Fields for, obviously Saints, Taysom Hill, etc. And like Justin is like a little bit different to Jalen. Jalen is like much more, I'd say, muscly in a way, and he could really be a cheat code for short yardage situation. Also, good luck for fantasy owners, because if that's going to happen, and we will talk about this backfield, it's going to be really hard to predict who is going to be eating in terms of touchdowns for this offense. Then, when we are with the running game, Damian Martinez, I think, is a sensational pick. There were some off-field issues that I was not like super aware of, though. Like as a dart throw in 7th round, as a guy that, to me, ideally he can ease up some of the workload for Kenneth Walker, and perhaps even replace him going forward. I think he has that potential. Then Torrey Horton, really nice player. Like to me, he was like late 3rd. Okay, why not? And you get him 5th round. I really feel like he has a chance to like, I mean, perhaps even start for this offense, because he's kind of archetype of wide receiver that they don't necessarily have. Like he can win more outside, like down the sidelines, not necessarily with speed. Like he can kind of do it though. It's not like he's like sensational or anything. He's still just a good backup in my eyes, but he could carve himself a nice role even year one. So when you really look at this, I feel like they've got one clear starter in Gray Zabel, and like I would say, just here, they got some other picks, but 5 players that in certain packages, they will play a significant role as early as year one, like immediately pretty much. And you go from like estimated 500, 600 snaps for Emanvore, for Arroyo, to like 200, 300 for Martinez, Horton, perhaps 150 for Jalen Milroe. So I think that's pretty nice haul, especially when you consider there is nice plan for all of these guys. And really, they make sense. Perhaps the Arrow one, like, slightly disappointed there. But if you want to go cheaper, let Noah Fant go after this year. That's again, like, the plan is here. So, love this draft. Really, really love this draft for the Seahawks. Where does it leave us in terms of this roster? So, and obviously the whole offseason. Because, like, there was a lot of turmoil. And the huge one, obviously, is Geno Smith getting shipped off to the Raiders and San Dardnold being brought here. And people are like, why are you exchanging, let's say, one veteran QB for another, when perhaps Geno is more battle-tested? Sam Darnold only had like one pretty great season, and then he kind of failed at the end of that season, when you are kind of paying them very similar amount of money. Well, I think there are a couple of reasons. With Geno, I don't think he necessarily like super wanted to stay, I would say. I think the moment Pete Carroll kind of got this job at the Raiders, Gino really wanted to be with Pete, and I'm not sure like if Pete is out of the league, I'm not sure Gino is super out loud about the new contract and situation. So I think that was part of it. I also feel like, well, you got some compensation for him. It was a third round pick that they've used nicely for, I think it was the pick that they used for Jalen Miller, so that's pretty good. And also with Sam, like potentially you are getting a higher upside guy, because like there's a reason why Sam got drafted where he did a couple of years back. And when he was on last year, he was really on. Like it looked like potentially Sam Darnold could be this Baker Mayfield type of really a guy that's going to attack the top 10 QBs in the league. Obviously, that's like what do you say, pen in the flesh, flesh in the pen, something that only happened for a stretch of games. And it also went really, really ugly at the end of the season. So what type of version of Sam Darnold are you going to get? And there are obviously massive question marks, because Sam to me is a guy that, I mean, obviously every QB wants his O-line to be good and great and awesome. But some can deal with the pressure much better than others. And I think Sam is in that second category. And especially when it's interior pressure. Like he really is not good at dealing with that. And when you look at the interior of the offensive line for the Seahawks, you just understand why I have to give Grace Abel an A+, because like that room was like by far the worst in the league. And Grace Abel, I think, slightly changes that it's like bottom 3 to bottom 5, but definitely like raises it up to hopefully be a workable room. And also, one more thing is Clint Kubiak. I feel like he, instead of Ryan Grubb, is going to be a massive, massive upgrade. Not necessarily that like Ryan Grubb is like a bad OC or like he doesn't know how to coach or whatever. No, I just feel like with him, it was never adjusting to the personnel, especially in terms of offensive line that you have, and like looking for their strengths. Just trying to do what worked for him at the college, and it just didn't with this online, or like with this online with even less talent for Grace Abel. I think Clint Kubiak and like the whole of season really felt to me like there's a change of how we are going to run. It's going to suit Christian Haynes. It's going to suit Grace Abel. That's why we brought him. All of our teammates should be really good at this scheme as well. Lucas, kind of a good replacing level right tackle. Hopefully he can stay healthy. And Charles Cross, this is our like flagship of this offensive line. Potentially top 10 left tackle as early as the season. Going forward, like yeah, he has legit upside, just as like Paris Johnson and guys like that. Like really this wave of new young talent on left side. Because with Charles, you may have questioned that before the last year, but he really improved as a run blocker. So that's massive. And I think with Kubiak, this offense is going to have identity that suits the personnel. Whilst last year, I think the identity under Ryan Grubb was suited for several pieces of that offense, but really without coexistence with the offensive line. And especially with like Connor Williams retiring mid-season, there was just really no adjustment after that, and it was ugly, man. It was ugly. And the thinking was like, if that would be the case, and then you have Sam Darnold who deals with that pressure much worse than Gino does, because like Gino was actually pretty good. Is like really reasonably good, I would say, when dealing with pressure, that it would be like a death sign and Sam Darnold is going to go back to seeing ghosts. And this whole Seahawks change of offense pretty much, like from DK to Cooper, from Gino to Sam, from Grubb to Kubiak, like it would all fail. To me, the fact that you are changing the way this should work in terms of running, in terms of protections, and you are also improving personnel-wise by adding Grace Abel, I think this has a much better chance to work than like people actually perceive, because like they want to see Sam and seeing ghosts, and this interior offensive line is a joke. I mean, it's still a bad interior offensive line. It has potential, but it's still bad. But the scheme should really cover some of the weaknesses that they have, especially in terms of pass protection. And the identity of this team and of this offense should be, well, it should be running the piss out of the football. And that's why Cooper Kupp is here as really this very like kind of extension of a run game in terms of his really nasty run blocker. He just understands the concept. He enjoys that part of the football, and he's obviously very, very dangerous in short to intermediate area. And then you have the really nice combination of Ken Walker and Zach Charbonnet, who are to me like slightly less version of Bijan and Tyler Algier, slightly less version of Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. It's just slightly, and I would say if Kenneth Walker was not dealing with so many injuries in past couple of seasons where you question whether he can stay healthy and whether he can like sustain the level of play, especially the physicality that he brings to the table, that duo could have been much closer to these two guys, to the other duos, but it's still like really legit 1 and 2 and strength of his team. And you had Clint Kubiak that, again, like when you look at his work with the Saints, like first 2 weeks, they were just running over everybody. It was so fun. And then what happened? Well, Eric McCoy got injured. Then Derek Carr got injured. Then Chris Olave got injured. So pretty much like everything that he like wanted to do just fell apart because like they ran out of bodies. They already was like short on like great players for that offense. And when like 3 of the best like fall down, then you see the Spencer Rattler and like the game against Packers that I would say most of the like general public, when they think about Saints and that offense last year, they know what they saw on Christmas Day. And it's like, oh my God, you think this guy is going to be an upgrade in terms of coaching offense? Trust me, it was a lot about the personnel. So I really think this run game could be really fun. You have Kenneth Walker, you have Zach Charbonnet, you have Damien Martinez, which to me, Damien, what he brings is that in ideal situation, you could go like 40-40-20, which should ensure that Kenneth Walker should go through the season, because I don't want him like 25 touches game 1. I really don't. I think if it's like 15, 7, 8, something like that, I'm absolutely okay with that because I think Damien Martinez can do a lot of nice work. And it's all about the longevity, and you want to run the piss out of football. You don't want to do it without Kenneth Walker from like week 6 because you just ran him to the ground. And you add to that Jalen Milroe as really, really nice threat. And wow, this could be legit fun and like kind of throwback to old Seahawks day, like from the like days when I started to really watch NFL and starting to support this team, when it was run the piss out of football and have an exceptional defense. Because that should be what the Seahawks are aiming to be in 2025. And boy, oh boy, like we won the Super Bowl with that formula. I mean, I'm not comparing Sam Darnold to Russell Wilson. I think Russell was much, much better. Obviously, this is not Legion of Boom yet. And like, I understand, it's a stretch. And I'm not saying we are going to win the Super Bowl this year, but that's the whole, I think the idea is very, very similar, that we want to run the ball, really dominate the intermediate part of the field, dominate time of possession, and just allow this defense to be fresh and totally lethal. So I was really positive, right? Well, now let's talk about some negative potential with this offense. And it's a passing game. Like, let's not pretend that this passing game has like a lot of answers. Sam is going from Justin Jefferson to JSN. Like, it's a downgrade. Jordan Addison to Cooper Kupp, okay-ish. MVS, TJ Hawkinson, Noah Fant. Like, obviously, in terms of weaponry, it's a downgrade. Like, yeah, nobody is Justin Jefferson. The thing is, Seahawks have one really nice deep threat in Marcus Van der Scantling, who was actually really fun with Kubiak last year with the Saints. Like, at the end of the year, they were actually able to scheme some open deep targets for him. And they have really a lot of guys to like win with savvy route running around the line of scrimmage, being yard after catch threats in Cooper Kupp, in JSN, even in Noah Fant. They don't necessarily have, like Mike Evans type of guy that's going to win, or DK Metcalf, obviously, like going to win tough catches down the sideline. big-bodied wide receivers. They don't necessarily have that, and that obviously could allow defenses to compress the field a little bit because they are not necessarily afraid of such a type of playmaker, and that could be a problem. Also, this offensive line, as much as I think that for run blocking they are going to be actually quite good, in terms of pass blocking, pass protection, there is still a lot to be desired. And like, of course, 5 of those 5 starting players that I actually expect to start, because right now it's Anthony Bradford over Christian Haynes in like ESPN depth charts. I think Christian Haynes is going to win that starting job. All of these 5 guys are on a rookie contract, so like, you kind of expect that they are not going to be the best unit in the football. They are not. They are far from that. Also, I wouldn't say that this team is necessarily deep in terms of offensive line. Like, you have Anthony Bradford, you have Joe Jones. I might have been a little bit too harsh on his signing. He's going to be more of a swing tackle than a guard. I mean, it's not that depth that really like necessarily pushes you to be better, because it really feels like not good. I mean, if you had entrusted 5, then you can feel solid about Josh Jones and Anthony Bradford as your number 6, number 7. In an area where Olu and Christian Haynes are definitely unproven starters, to say at least, the fact that you don't really have, I think, a clear floor raiser, because I don't think Anthony Bradford is necessarily a floor raiser for that unit. Yeah, I am not enjoying that. In terms of skilled players, it's different. I think Elijah Arrow as your tight end 2, Jake Bobo and Torrey Horton as your wide receiver 4 and 5, Damian Martinez as running back 3. It's good enough. Again, like, you might want one more body in terms of wide receivers, but I think it still works pretty damn good. They also have Robbie Outs as like kind of a fullback, and tight end we drafted last year, I cannot remember his name right now. In terms of QB, there's Drew Lock, there's Jalen Miro. Let's hope Sam Darnold stays healthy, because as much as I enjoy the idea of like occasionally seeing Jalen Miro on 3rd or 4th down, I don't want him as my starter for whole game. I mean, like, we've seen Anthony Richardson. This is like, Jalen is not even on Anthony's level right now. So overall, when you look at this offense, it's like, does it have potential to be an elite unit? No, hello. There's a lot of things that could go wrong. Like, the pass protection could just be really unstable. Sam Darnold could go past the seeing ghost, and like, these 2 things are really meshed well with each other. Like, one is dependent really on the other. But I think there's a clear vision for what this offense should be. There's proper personnel to execute it, and the depth is actually like good on those like reasonable places, perhaps with the exception of O-line. But again, like, they are sort of 7 deep, so it's not like the end of the world. There might be someone on the chopping block, and like, I'm just like sick that they weren't able to get like Tevin Jenkins or someone. Like, there were some cheap guards like with injury question marks that, to me, getting them here as kind of your backups, like, even going Christian Haynes over Jenkins, though Jenkins is a much better player, at least in my opinion, would be like very nice, because like, in case it just does not work with Olu or Christian, like, you have this guy that you can entrust and get him in. I don't really feel like that's necessarily Anthony Bradford. I really like Jake Bobo and Cooper Kupp. Like, these dudes, like, Jake Bobo is like, I don't know, 70-75% of Cooper Kupp. Really nasty run blocker, a guy that enjoys the ball, is going to be playing every snap like it's his last, and that's really like where he could like alleviate some of that I would say, body wear on Cooper Kupp, so he can focus on more being a wide receiver. But don't get me wrong, he's always going to be a nasty run blocker. Overall, like, again, this offense has its limitations. It's not going to be explosive in terms of, like, you should not see 300 passing. I mean, if we have one game of 300 passing, I will be surprised. But, you know, if it's like 150 rushing every week, if the time of possession is 35 minutes, if they can put up 20 points, they did their job. And I think this offense can definitely do that. And the reason why this should be a game plan, why they feel like they are planning this, is like I am really, really high on this defense. So let's start with defensive line. And okay, let's start with Leonard Williams, because the fact that he was not named Pro Bowler as of like the start, he like replaced someone, but like he was not like first clear All-Star, Pro Bowler, whatever you want to call it. It was just ridiculous. He had such an amazing year. I think he absolutely enjoyed the living hell out of football under Mike Mack. And obviously, the pick six on Aaron Rodgers is going to be in a lot of people's mind. Is he your ideal best defensive lineman? No, he isn't. You know, like, you would prefer him next to someone of the same caliber as he is, or obviously someone better. And then you could be really excited. Well, the thing is, here, you don't necessarily have someone on Leonard's level. And neither, I think, there is necessarily a guy that should emerge as such in this year. I mean, there's huge potential with Byron Murphy. There's some potential with Derek Hall. But I don't think there is, at least I'm not expecting anyone of this group to actually get towards an amazing starter level. But there could be as much as like 4 to 5 other guys that have important starter next to their name, and another 2 like with good starters. So, and to me, that's kind of like, obviously you want Myles Garrett of the world and Aiden Hutchinson of the world. But if you have Mike Mack that is like super great with like generating pressure, like really moving these defensive line pieces, and they can play off each other, having such a versatility, having so many great pieces together, that should be absolutely lethal. And I think they really can have that, because like you have Boye Mafe and Derek Hall, kind of, well, Boye is much better run defender, Derek is much better pass rusher, he's better pass rusher. Does it mean that the other cannot do the one thing? Not necessarily. Like, you are not like super showing your hand. Like, both can do a little bit of the other one's strength. But at the same time, like, they're kind of, if you can have this duo or a guy that maybe is on individual level slightly better than these guys, but you have him out there for all 3 downs, the effectiveness of such a player is going to go down at least a little bit. On the other side, you have DeMarcus Lawrence, that was a little bit of a luxury signing for, like, I would say, a really reasonable price for such a great player if he's healthy. And let's say, like, he was not healthy last year. He's dealing with injuries. He's dealing with age. Understand all of that. The thing is, this group can do it without DeMarcus Lawrence, but if he's on, boy oh boy. And then we talk about Byron Murphy. And like, a lot of people are like, well, he had an underwhelming season 1 with the Seahawks. And I'm like, yes and no. Yes, in terms of like the numbers don't look great. And like, he was like super hyped in terms of like Seahawks got this amazing steal, which I still think they did. But when you look at his alignments, like, he was playing a lot of nose tackle. He was dealing with injury, and he was trying to like go from college to pro on one of the top 3 toughest positions to transition in. It's defensive tackle. Like, to me, like, when was the last time that you see really a defensive tackle coming into league and really dominate? Like, it's few and far between. You know, Aaron Donald, Dexter Lawrence, like really those elite type of guys, they can dominate year 1. Everyone else, yeah, it's a very, very hard position to transition. And I really feel like there is a huge leap awaiting for Byron Murphy in year 2. And like the nice thing for the Seahawks is, even if he doesn't, this is still pretty damn good D-line. But if he does and emerges as, he probably has the most potential to emerge as a partner to Leonard Williams in terms of amazing starters in my rankings. You are cooking with gas then. And now in terms of the depth of this D-line, talk about Derek Hall, really, really nice pass rusher. His last year, he really showed what he can do. Then you have Uchenna Nwosu, who is like kind of this forgotten man, overlooked because of some injuries, but like there are rumors that he should be healthy, he should be really ready. This is like, I think it is his contract year, or like the second to last, something like that. But now, like again, if on one side you have Hall and Boyamafe, on the other you have Uchenna and DeMarcus Lawrence, you should be able to really keep these guys fresh, healthy, and really, really good. You also have Jared Ivey, as like kind of interesting rookie, but nothing to like write home about, and not much excitement should come year 1. And then also really great designing by veteran Jaron Reed, who is really like, when you put Byron at nose tackle, you put Jaron and Leonard Williams next to him. That's kind of like how they could go in 5 front. And like he was really brutally good last year. So like getting him back, very nice contract. Like this is because I would say there's some home time discount, but also like he's getting there with NH. And this was actually his like best year, like last season. So they are going 7 deep. I also have Jonathan Haskins. You have Jared Ivey. So they have pretty much body type for everything. And I would still say a lot of potential with Derek Hall. I think with Boyamafe, he can get better with Byron Murphy. And if the rest of these guys kind of stay what they are, which is perfectly reasonable, and you have Mike Mack, yeah, guys, I mean, I could say I wish you the best of luck, but I actually don't. I want to see this D-line feast on you. And I think it can. So, good luck, but not really. Now, let's go towards the linebacker room. And this was a room that was really turbulent last year. Jerome Baker, and I don't know, like there was some other guys that we went through until finally, Ernest Jones got traded here, Tyrese Knight got brought from the bench, and these two together, it started to click. Ernest Jones with Mike, in his mic, from the mic, on the sideline, that was a perfect duo. You can clearly see the defensive efficiency like really started to creep higher and higher pretty much since this duo was assembled. I'm not saying they individually played like the best linebackers in the league, far from that. Like this is still just solid linebacker duo, or like good. But at the same time, it was clear that the organization, it just all started to fall into their right pieces. And that's like when I'm talking about like how much I think this defense will be scary. It's, well, they kind of started to find what they are, who the pieces are for this defense. Week 9, week 10 last year, and pretty much since that point, it was like top 10 defense in the league. And now you talk about one more off season for Mike Mack, that it's like the head coaching job is not new for him. He can just pinpoint, well, I want this guy back, I want this guy in, and kind of work with all the group, all the pieces for whole 6 months, too much from the draft towards week 1. I mean, I think people should be scared. Though, when we talk about linebackers, there is really no depth that I like. So, fingers crossed for both Ernest Jones and Tyrese Knight to stay healthy, for Tyrese to keep improving, because he's still just a good backup in my eyes. I think he's really closing on decent starter. It needs to come. But at the same time, I'm not worried. I really saw enough that I'm confident that him as a LB2 is perfectly nice position, especially next to Ernest Jones. That this is kind of a balanced duo of savvy, nice veteran that has his head on the right place, and this young, talented guy with a lot of physical traits. It should work. absolutely spot on together. And, like, I'm reasonably high on this defensive line. I kind of like the linebacker room, especially by modern standards. It's just a workable linebacker room that's not going to drag you down. But then we talk about secondary. And when I was talking Legion of Boom, remembering 2013, 2014, I have a good feeling about the secondary, man. I really am. I think already it's like top 7 secondary in the league. But as early as this year, I think it could be the best. I really do. Because, well, let's start with Devon Witherspoon. To me, he's like top 5, top 7 corner in the league. Mike Mack absolutely loves him because, like, he's freaking nasty. Maybe you miss some interceptions, but, like, he likes to play next to the ball, line of scrimmage, so not necessarily super outside. But I think this year he could move a little bit more outside with Nick Manwari coming into town. And the production will come because, like, he is special, man. He is freaking awesome. He's just, I think, football player. Like, he loves to play hard. He's smart as, like, I would say as a rat, because, like, I just saw some quotes from Rush from Niki Lauda. Rats are smart. Trust me. So this is not any shade on Devon Witherspoon. And next to him, on the other side, we'll see, definitely based on the packages, is Rick Woolen, who I think definitely settled as a really nice number 2 in the league. Like from year 1, where it was like a lot of production, but a lot of busts. Then the production fell away. But you actually, when you looked and watched the film, you felt slightly better about him because, like, there was much less of busts. So obviously interceptions are important, but they are like fluky at some point, and also they are like one of the mostly misused stats about the corner in the league, like by far. And I would say last year he even improved his run defense, which is something that got him benched like 2 years ago. And he was just a very, very solid number 2 corner. So, in some packages it's going to be Spoon as a slot. Rick has to be one. He can do it. He can handle some of the guys, but I think it's going to be dependent on the matchups. And if there is like elite guy, I think Spoon could go and try to like shadow him. And it would be more time for Nick Manwari as kind of this hybrid slot corner / box safety / whatever Mike Mack wants to do with him. The really nice signing that I feel like has come kind of unnoticed was Shaquille Griffin coming back home. On the picture I have him and his brother Shaquem. Both of them at time played for Seahawks, obviously. His brother playing without part of his arm, which is like outstanding how this guy made it to the NFL. Like, huge kudos to him, huge resilience. Like, I mean, freaking amazing. Unfortunately, like, his career was a little bit short, but like he was legit drafted because he was good. It was not like pity or whatever. Like, he legit deserved it. And Shaquille coming back, I think, is really nice piece again for this, because, well, now you have competition for number 2 / number 3 outside corner between Shaquille and Josh Jobe, who I feel like, between two of them, one of them should be like good enough to be number 2 corner when Spoon is playing at slot. So I have really no worries about this corner room. I think it's very well put together. There is some depth. Very nice. And then you have safeties. Julian Love, kind of perennial Pro Bowler. Perhaps sometimes, like in cases of Leonard Williams, like Julian Love kind of went to Pro Bowls when I didn't think he should have. Unlike Leonard, who should have and didn't go. But it doesn't really matter. He's kind of like top 10, top 15-ish safety in the league. I think he's pretty damn good. And at this point, like, his contract is actually a really nice value for money. Next to him, Kobe Bryant, slot turned into the safety, like corner turned into the safety, and his transition, like pretty much year 1, playing safety was very nice. And I feel like there is no reason to believe that it's going to stop. So this could legit be very, very nice safety duo. And then you have Nick Emanvori, this guy that has trades for days. And the question is, can all the football come? And I think like if you go to Mike Mack, you know what he did with Kyle Hamilton. Obviously, like I think Kyle was a better prospect than Nick is, even better, which is like not necessarily better from like physical standpoint, but from football standpoint, like how quickly can he process things. I think that's something that Nick lacks a little bit. This is just a special landing spot for him. And nice thing is, I think this secondary can absolutely work without him. it can. Like with this 5, Jojoba as a backup, they could work without him, and it would be just very, very good secondary. Top 10 easily, top 7 quite likely, potentially top 5 with improvement of Kobe and Spoon, potentially even Wallen. Jojo could, overcome Shaq Griffin. Easy. But when you really put Nick Emanvori into the mix, and like if you get 85 to 90% of Kyle Hamilton, which I think is definitely in the range of outcomes for him, under Mike Mack, like I said, I am super excited about this defense, man. Like, I think there is super high floor. Super high floor is like, I think floor is kind of top 10 defense, because that's what they were at the end of last year. When really pieces fall together, they have not lost anyone spectacular from that. Now they have time to work with everyone from the get-go, really like falling into their place. And they brought Leonard Williams, they brought Nick Emanvori, they brought Shaq Griffin. Really pieces that they just handpicked for this defense to really ascend that. Not to mention that you really have like several players that really are not at their peak of their powers. Byron Murphy, Derek Hall, Rick Woolen, Tyrese Knight, Kobe Bryant, Devon Witherspoon. We can talk Jojoba, Nick Emanvori, obviously. Like, I think how great this defense could be under Mike Mack, and how better Clint Kubiak can use the personnel that Seahawks currently have over Ryan Grapp are the two main viewpoints that I am higher on than I would say general public, and even like that franchise guy that I respect the hell out of, put Seahawks at like number 21 in terms of his power rankings. I'm like, and I really don't. I think it's underestimating. At the same time, there are things that scare me even with this defense. In terms of safety depth, Nick Emanvori, he can play safety, like a normal safety, but I don't necessarily want to see him as a free safety, truth to be told. I feel like he lacks some of the really nice traits for him to be back there as that kind of coverage guy. And of course, like in terms of linebackers, better stay healthy. I think this room is not injury proof. So there are questions about the defense. If we want to have a negative spin on this defense, it's like without the really number one pass rusher, they could just be a good D-line, nothing special. Perhaps Byron Murphy doesn't take a step forward. In terms of the secondary, like Nick Emanvori cannot grasp the toughness or like mental preparation that is needed for him to play the Kyle Hamilton role. But barring the injuries, it's hard for me to be very, very negative about this defense, because again, like beside Ernest Jones' injury, I think they are like ready to go. Even if Leonard Williams goes down, even if Spoon goes down, I think this defense can survive that, and doesn't like fall apart, which is not something I can say about much other defenses. Now, where does this leave me with prediction of Seahawks and their schedule? To me, the outcome is going to be the same as last year, 10-7. Hopefully, it's going to be enough to make the playoffs. So, first part of the season, instantly it's time to step up. This offensive line is going to have it rough. I mean, Nick Bosa and company is going to come to town. Kind of week one showdown between, well, this imperfect O-line that we try and invest heavily into versus this imperfect D-line that we try and heavily invest to. Who is going to come out on the top? Then week two, you are going to the Pittsburgh. Good luck with that D-line. So they really need to... I think these two games are going to show a lot about the Seahawks season, because if they cannot handle, if this offensive line is really putting Sam under constant pressure, he cannot handle that, they cannot execute the game plan, these two games really can show it pretty well for the Seahawks. Then the schedule gets easier with Saints at home, at Cardinals, against Buccaneers at home, at Jaguars. I mean, 4-2 might be optimistic, but at the same time, I really think that so many of these teams just don't have the firepower to put up that many points on the Seahawks against this defense early in the season. And if so, not necessarily have great defenses. I mean, definitely, first two games are going to be massive for the Seahawks. I think they are going to be super, super important for them to handle. Then we are going to mid part of the season. The theme is need to keep running. With me featuring Kenneth Walker, obviously in the first picture I was featuring Greg Zabel. To me, when you look at the schedule, it's hard against Texans at home, then a bye week, then at Commanders, against Arizona, then going to the LA, going to the Tennessee. I think on all of these teams, you can rush the ball. Perhaps Texans could give you the most trouble doing that. Of course, Tennessee with Tevon Sweat, it's going to be hard. But I think that this could be the part of the year where really having still hopefully fresh Kenneth Walker and this clean QB scheme should really work wonders for this team. Still just 3-2. I'm not saying that the margin for error, when the expectations for your offense to score 20 points is not biggest. The margin of error for defense, in terms of turnovers, it's not high. So I'm not predicting that this team is going to steamroll over everyone. And then we go towards the back end of the season, and the team is ghost of the past. It's Sam Darnold, and the first game is against the Vikings. Week 17, we visit Panthers, so two of the teams that Sam played at. And of course, last year he started seeing ghosts in the last couple of games. So now, when the season is hopefully going to be on the line for the Seahawks, I don't think they would have division wrap up. Also, I hope, and I really don't think that they should be out of a playoff contention by this point. It's time to put up. You will need to put up a lot of good performances if you want to go at least 3-3, because the schedule is not easy. And it's going to be on Sam. You have Nick Bosa, you have Jared Verse, you have this crazy Brian Flores defense that literally had work to study, 1 year to study. Don't you think that Brian Flores for that week 13, he's going to throw everything at Sam Darnold? So I think again, when I pinpoint to critical games, to me it's San Francisco and Steelers, week 1, week 2, just really to see whether this offensive line can handle pressure from Nick Bosa and then one of the best D-lines in football at Steelers. And then week 14 is can Sam Darnold handle Brian Flores, Vikings-led defense that has had a year to study him? If those games work out in their favor, then they could overcome 10-7. But they could also, being more of a 8-win team, which I think public and Vegas has them at, and that would be probably things that are huge questions for this offense, kind of turn out to be more of negative than I would hope. At the end of the day, one more thought that I wanted to have, and it's going to be really interesting to me to see what Mike Mack is going to decide in terms of fourth downs, especially obviously those short one situations. Is it going to be more, or even like third and like manageable and like preparing the fourth down? Is it going to be more Pete Carroll, like start or era of Seattle, when it's like we believe that we have an amazing defense, so just don't lose the ball, punt it away, and we will defend it? Or is it going to be, well, we feel we have an amazing defense, so we can handle a bad situation on the field. Let's be aggressive and let's really prepare this, let's say, cheat code with Jalen Milroe for third and fourth downs on short situations, because to me they have really nice opportunity to like steal some possessions like that, and the defense should be good enough to, like, in case of mishaps, really work it out. So I hope they will be aggressive, especially if Jalen Milroe under Clint Kubiak is as great of a weapon as I expect him to be. And at the end of the day, 10-7, hopefully playoffs, and I'm excited. I'm excited about the Seahawks season. And you know, it was hard of season, losing DK, losing Tyler, like it hurt. At the same time, I like what I'm seeing. I like the additions. I like the draft. And I hope I'm right, or at least more right than general public and TFG guys. So thank you very much for listening. One more thing, if you could leave a like, leave a comment, you know, if you are still listening, thank you very much. Appreciate you guys a lot, and see you with the Rams in episode 4. Bye bye.